Jakob Reddersen. Reddersen. He can save us all. Reddersen. Saving. Is there saving? Jakob was also one of the first Christianites, and he was also one of the first who was in the trying of organizing this crazy place with many meetings and many discussions, too many discussions, blah 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 blah. So Jakob, welcome Jakob, the saving man, the Reddersen. Reddersen means saving.
Okay, just a little bit about me and my history in Christiania. I came first to Christiania in 1974, joining Solvognen, making julemand's her, Christmas Eve.
Santa Claus Army.
Santa Claus Army, yeah.
Clauses. He was
of course, it was very inspiring and. Okay. Of course, it was inspiring to join this cultural explosion of just doing things. I was at university at that time, learning that you couldn't change anything because it was only the working class that was able to change the history. And then I came here and I met people saying, well, if we want to change something, we just do it. Well, I found out it was kind of naive also. Of course, there are structures and power of different things, and we live in a society, so it's not that easy to change the world. It's easy, perhaps, to make a cultural manifesto and making a Christmas army, but in the long run, to make a local community, that's a difficult case. Especially in Christiania, where I say we talk a lot about we are a community of people thinking in the same way, but we are not. It's a lot of different interests coming to Christiania. Some is just coming to earn money, some is just coming to be artists, some is have a political agenda, making a local community, some is just finding a cheap place to live because they don't have any place to live. So they come here for so many reasons, and that's multicultural, and that's very interesting. And so many, you can meet different people from different background, and you know, that's a diversity that is very interesting.
Hey, just to make a minute, there's something, such a beep, 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 beep on the telephone. Who has a telephone here? So please log it, please log it. It's not yours.
I know.
So disturb the speaker.
That's okay. I tried something that were worse in Christiania.
Problem.
Okay, but after that I moved to Christiania in 1976, and I was very soon part of sort of organizing things. The first thing I do was organizing some social work, what do you say, detoxing junkies, and making social work for that. After that I started helping building up the Green Hall. I was the first one, I was one of the pioneers in the Green Hall, selling recycling building materials. And then after some years, I became the one, how to say that, the chief of public finance in Christiania. I actually was that from 1980 till 93, so I was 92, I think. 12 years I was taking care of common economy on Christiania. So I've been involved in a lot of negotiation with the government outside. I've been involved in a lot of internal organization. So that's my background, and that's where I try to tell a bit about my history in Christiania and making some reflections on how Christiania organized. And what I've been discussing some years is also a bit romantic idea of we don't have any structures. We just meet the day as a new day every day, and then we interact with each others. So we actually don't talk very much about structures, because structures is not a way of a romantic thinking. But anyway, history builds structures. As time go by, some will get some privileges, there will be some routines, there will be some ways of doing it, and we're not really talking about if it's the right thing to do it, because we just do it as we did yesterday and the day before, and so on and so on. So we're just slightly building up tradition, and very often we not talk so much about it, we just do it because we don't talk about structures. So therefore I think it's interesting to make some reflections about why we build up the structures, how we build up the structures, how strong the structures are, and that's what I'm gonna tell about. So it's possible to take the mic and then I can draw a bit down there without making noise on the... It's possible. The first move when we came out here, we can... after some years they got the name activists, other named than power pushers, but indeed they went to the government to make some kind of an appointment about how to be on Christiania, and they got a document, and it was on the common meeting, and well, accepted. But there was a lot of discussion after that, saying that, well, the common meeting is not democratic, it was some strong people just making an appointment, so we have to put it out to the områdemøderne, 9 areas around, because no power to the common meeting. And indeed, I can tell the year. There was making some appointment about paying for electricity and water, and I think that 2/3 of people living on Christiania thought, no, why are we going to do that? But the 1/3 who made this, they thought it's a good political argument. We are under political pressure, so it might be a good idea to have some more formal relations with the government outside. It's important that you can tell a farmer in Jutland that we're doing some reasonable thing. We're paying for the water and supply, of course, but no one here 2/3, I think, they didn't care. So, but anyway, this event constituted fælleskassen. It was not a strong place, and we were not at all able to pay for the supply. And the more we came under pressure, the more we tried to get some to improve this. And therefore we did a campaign, and there's the hvad hedder det? Plakat? Poster. Yeah. Saying, are you a Christianit or what? Have you paid your områdekasserer?
What's that? Did you pay your what?
Your rent. Then you paid to the fælleskassen, who paid to the government for the. So, but at that time there was very poor payment, and we absolutely had no sanctions if people didn't pay. And a lot of people thought that if they were going 4 months to Afghanistan, then they didn't have to pay. So, you know, it was quite loose. Luckily, we got a new legislation in 1976 about social insurance. So if you were, if you got the right for social insurance, then they should pay your house rent. And the municipality of Copenhagen accepted to pay for all those who went to the bistandshjælp, or if they could pay directly to the common cash, to the fælleskassen. We got a lot more money, not enough money, but a better payment. And at that time, Christiania was under big political pressure, and we were taking a court case for our social experiments rights. So we tried to argue about all the things we were able to do. So it was nice to have a good payment for supply and some money for doing what we were saying we could do. But still the support for the fælleskassen was not very strong at that time. And for those who want to study it, I have left all the monthly calculation about payment to fælleskassen to Rigsarkivet, the Royal Archival. So I have 5 meters of calculation material on the Rigsarkivet. So you can follow how the payment grows. But it was coming up, and then I never told this very much before, but my trick was, when I came to that I should pay the government once a year, and therefore the money that came in, I was buying bonds. So I could pay about 35% more than I collected for the government. And I was buying government bonds. So I just lended money to the state so that I could pay them more money. But anyway, it was a minor trick. But fælleskassen was more and more constituted in these years. And the next step fælleskassen was taking was in 1980. And for a special reason, not because Christiania thought that it was a good idea to have a, because still there was areas in Christiania who absolutely didn't pay for fælleskassen. And some, especially in area south and Fredens Ark, was divided into two areas because one part wanted to pay for the fælleskassen, and I think that Fredens Ark didn't want to pay to fælleskassen. If they were going to collect money, it was for themselves. There was, of course, there was big differences between which areas paid a lot of money. I think that some areas, the best areas, I think was Mælkebøtten, where Emmerich and I was living. I think it was 60-65% of those who ought to pay that paid for fælleskassen. And then there was other areas who, well, 10% was a good week. So there was big differences. Because Christianias, there's so many different people in Christiania, and only those who thought it was okay to have some normalization of relation to the external society, they were more supporting this development than others. But in 1980, there was an event, because there was of course a problem about paying taxes for all the working shops that were here. In the beginning, the problem was not that big because the business was not that big, but it was growing, and especially in pubs and so was growing, and then there was a grocer, then there was a green hall, and there was a green grocer, and a lot of different shops coming up. So we had some legislation about value-added taxes called MOPS. So we had a fælleskassen made an agreement that we were paying some fictive amount of money, not that much, but it was difficult to argue that it was okay. Our friend Torbjørn was making this fictive figures on every quarter of the year, but it was getting a big and bigger problem. And suddenly there was a razzia, and the police was taking a big amount of money from rockmaskinen.
Money from
One of the pubs.
Jakob, kan du gå lidt til side, når du snakker?
Ja.
Så man kan se tavlen. Det er ligesom, du tror. Ja, det er lidt bedre.
Yeah. This special arrangement about paying MOPS was made of an organization outside called Støt Christiania, Support Christiania, and the one who was signing the agreement, Ole Krav, the government made some, they wanted the money from him, so we had to do something about how to do it. And then
He was a lawyer.
Yeah, I tried to think we have to pay some more, and to support the working shops inside. We have to show that we know that there's more money in this than we want to tell you. So we have to take up the payment for them. So and to do that and to protect the working shop insides, we said to the working shops, you have to pay to Fælleskassen so that we can pay some more money to moms and some more money to common issues. The more the pubs was paying the money for profit and wages for those who were there, and the less they paid for the common issues, the more the government would say, well, that's not reasonable. So we could say, well, they pay a lot of money for Fælleskassen and for common issues out here, and we pay better money than we did before for moms. So we got a Fælleskasse with more money. And therefore we got the possibility to pay for things internal in our organization that we hadn't paid for before. So if I go back to the start of Christiania, I could tell about how to organize children care. Because it started up that those who had children, they joined together and made børnehuse. It's now a kindergarten, you know, not a, well, sort of a normal kindergarten. But it started up that they just shared to be there. If you had, then you had to be every third day or so. So it was starting up very easy in that way. No expending expenses from Fælleskassen, but just a local initiative. But after some time, you know, some of those were better to come when it was their turn to be there, and others were not. So they agreed that all was paying some money to børnehuset, and then børnehuset paid some to be in charge. And that's always a problem about organizing, that it's very good when people are there as voluntary, but very easily there comes money into it, because some is doing the work and others don't care. So there is coming up some kind of relation that well, you pay me to do it. So we're making, it's also a structure that you start up paying for things. And but still we have this very easy thing, and I can see now we were copying very much what is a problem outside in Denmark today, that you are earning more money in private sector than in public sector. Christiania løn, Christiania wage in børnehuset was 10 or 15 kroners per hour, but you could easily in the pub earn 40 or 50 kroners per hour. So that was a difference. It's better to be in the private sector than in the public sector. We know all about that. And the nurses know all about that today. So it's also changed a bit that there came money into this of having. But till 1980, there was no Fælleskassen in kindercare on Christiania. But when the working shops started up paying to Fælleskassen, there was room for making that for a yearly, a monthly payment for børnehuse. So it was getting more and more like an institution with people who was, there for doing the work. So we were moving from nothing to something just look-alike normal life outside in Denmark. We don't want to tell that story that much, but it's what happened. I have, and that's why I have Ugespejlet from 1979.
The Weekly Mirror.
Weekly Mirror, Christiania, and there I found what the Fælleskassen was used for, and I can say which kind of expenses there were. That was for building the post office, not for we had to have a post office. So if you were going there, you paid to be part of this post office. It was but when they were building a new post office, Fælleskassen paid it. So having a post office was not a common in common economy. It was private economy mixed with some help from Fælleskassen. Then there's some money, not many, 700 kroners for Sundhedshuset, the healthcare house, alternative herbal thing. And then there was something for the bath, and there was something for some building thing, but no monthly costs, only project costs for different things, you know. So the common economy was not very big at that time, and it was just coming out here when børnehuset, fritidshjemmet,
after school home.
Yeah, after school home. Skraldeholdet, the garbage sort of became every month costs. So it developed these years because of this value-added tax problem. So indeed it was the government outside pressure that created things that we are proud to talk about today, and not because Christiania said, well, this will be a good idea. And I still say that we made a structure that wasn't wanted by a lot of those who lived in Christiania. I must admit that. But it's like a lot of things developed of Christiania. It develops, the organizing also develops because of the pressure from outside. And not because a common meeting and everybody on Christiania is saying, yes, we are doing that. Christiania is much more for single projects and not for making local community structures. So that was one of the points. Then I should say a bit about, I could talk about this, you know, the next thing was that we have to legalize the pubs, because economy and the mixture with the hash economy and pubs were very strong. So we went for sort of legalizing it. Also to protect the small businesses, because if we took everything under one hat, then the economy in the pubs were so strong and so big that it destroyed this common, you know, all the small businesses. And then we didn't have any sort of agreement about how to. So we have to sort of isolating some of the most strong economy things to get a way to have a small business in a more light agreement. But I think that I was arguing for this a lot, but I didn't found that much understanding that this was an interesting point, because a lot of people was interested in a lot of other things. But still, we did some fills for the pubs and got some agreement about that with the pubs. So, and they delivered a lot of money for the fælles økonomi in that agreement.
Common economy.
Yeah.
For the common economy.
Yeah. Then I could talk about this special legislation. We call it Christiania legislation, because after years, in many years, we had a big advantage that the government thought that Christiania was only a temporary thing. Because what they think when it's temporary is that how much trouble will we make when it's going to be closed in 2 years. So they were kind of loose about really doing things in the legal way. But there was a political problem, a lot of discussions in the parliament, so there was some discussion about the relation, but the administration under the government, they were not that interested in making a lot of trouble for something that was only temporary. And I have described that in a book I wrote at the time. I call it the telephone company syndrome, because when in the start up here there was one ordering a telephone and they took a line up here, and then the next one was ordering a telephone, then came a new line up, and after years there was a lot of lines in the air and a lot of troubles because the wind, you know, made it, and they should go and repair it, but they thought, well, it's just for some time, so, well, we go and repair it, and then, you know. But of course, the more Christianity developed and the more permanent it went to be, then the need of doing some more, you know, fundamental things in the right way. Then the telephone company came and put lines in the big lines in the soil instead of all these in the air things. And indeed it was in that way with a lot of other things. Why come and regulate the buildings? Why come and regulate the small businesses? Why come and regulate things? Because it's only temporary. So that was indeed a lucky point that we didn't got a permanent permission to stay. We argued for a permanent permission to stay, but indeed we got a fantastic point of only be there temporarily. The more permanent things grow, the more need for some kind of regulation. And then we figured out that we had some discussion with the politicians at the government about how to solve this, because we had some fun about saying we couldn't write behind every law in Denmark, this law is not for Faroe Islands, Greenland and Christiania. No, it was a no-go. So could we try and make some other kind of legislation? And I have argued in the book I wrote about a model of making some more loose regulation, and indeed we met the government who owned all the buildings because they got a problem. Because in Denmark legislation is that way that the one who owns a building has a responsibility for the building. And if the building is burned and people is, dying from that, then it's the responsibility of the one who owns the building. So the government had a problem because they were the owner. But they, on the other hand, they could see, well, that's expensive, it's impossible, it's how to do this. It was their problem. And we were on the other side saying, couldn't we get a sort of kind of legislation that is not that narrow and that it is today? And then we made this legislation, Christiania law, that also put the municipality of Copenhagen out of the question, because in Copenhagen there was a very top-down social democrat red saying that it's only my way or the highway. So he was put, and the government of Copenhagen was put on the line. They were taking care of the buildings so it was coming into the Minister of Defense, who were the former owner of the place, and then we made an appointment that we could just talk to each other what we should try to make otherwise. But still we had this problem that it was a possibility, but a lot of people in Christiania, they absolutely didn't want to discuss with government how to do this. So I think that Christiania misused the opportunity of staying with loose legislation, because there was not internal support for any discussion about how to sort of normalize things, something. They should just keep out. We are doing things ourselves. So after some year we lost this legislation again, because we were not really able to have this dialogue about how to fix it. And I know from the politicians I discussed this in these years was, if we could do that in a proper way, talking about buildings, then we might expand this special way of legislate Christiania to other areas of legislation. But we missed that opportunity because we were so much against discussing anything with government about how to do it. So in 2002 we lost the legislation, and we came into a normal situation again. So Christiania's organization is a story about pressure from government. We are not we are representing so many different interests inside Christiania. So working with the consensus democracy is the same, that we never really come to an end with any discussion about structure. But we have structures, and I would say that still common economy is weak. When I just draw something. When we talk about organization, we talk that we have three ways of organizing. The one is the market, The other one is the public sector, and the third is civic society, family, voluntary work, like that. And we can look back on it and see a lot of things we have done with the market. Small shops, buying, selling, making income in that way. You get a wage for doing things yourself. More or less legal, more or less outside value-added taxes, but sort of that way. Civic society is we're doing quite well, but very often we come to an end. People want to join a specific project, but when it's coming to more structural things, we only want to do it if we get some payment for it. And therefore we can see how is public sector on Christiania. That'll say we have common economy, paying people for doing some public thing. And very often we must say that the willingness to pay for a common economy is not that big. And perhaps we don't have a democratic structure to handle it. And you can say many things against it, but we have to say there's 3 ways of organizing the way we are doing things out here and coping with the problems we have. And there's market, there's public or civic, hvad fanden hedder frivilligt arbejde? Volunteer, yeah. So, and I don't not to make funny things out of it, but when we are going to make a parade out in the town, the sun is shining. When we are talking about organization, it's raining. It's much easier to make single projects and big manifestations, and I love it. And it's not, but very difficult to talk and organize things. Yeah, I hope it was some input about talking about the future, about the need of having a dialogue with the government outside, making some kind of a appointment that improve situation inside Christiania, and some discussions about how to organize Christiania. I can say as a funny thing that in the 80th I was, some found that I was talking too much with government, and when my name is Jakob Reddersen, I was called Reddersen, the betrayer, because you are either with us or with them. So don't talk too much with them. But to exist, we have to have some sort of support from outside. So hope that you can use this for further discussions.